Now, for the top button, double click and go under Outputs. Click on Add, and my output named, I want it unpressed. Target entity named is what we're going to select is we want to trigger a relay switch called elevator down relay. And via this input, I want to trigger it. Click Apply. So once we press this button, it's going to trigger a logic relay. On the logic relay, double click on the logic relay. Under Outputs, we want to create a new output. So my named output is on trigger. Target entities named, I want to select elevator. And via this input, I want move to floor. And the last thing is with parameter override, I want to select and I want to type in top. So when the button is pressed, on trigger, the elevator will move to the floor called top. Really quick, let me run through the whole sequence again. What we did, we inserted a model, a prop dynamic, which is parented to the elevator. This is just for the looks. It has no functionality whatsoever. Then we created a button, which is invisible texture on it, so it does not appear in game. This button, on trigger, on pressed, will trigger this logic relay. This logic relay will trigger the elevator to move up to the top. So once we have all this set up, we will set up the second button later, but what I want to do now is I want to jump in game and I want to actually test it, see if this works. So inside the game, let's test it out. Works. Now nothing else will work because we rode up an elevator, but it will not come down. So let's set up the second button for it to go down. So for the bottom button, I need to set up the same outputs as we did for the top. So we need to set up the same thing. The only difference will be is I'm going to take the logic relay and I'm going to duplicate it. And the reason I'm duplicating it is if I set up the same outputs twice for the button. So if I set up a button for the bottom button to go to the logic relay, and it'll trigger, so you will conflict with the top. So it'll trigger the same relay output, but the difference will be is we'll have parameter top and parameter bottom. It will not know which one to execute. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a second elevator down relay, but I'm going to rename this to elevator top relay. So to make sure, elevator down relay, that's when it's going up, and elevator top is when it's going down. And the only thing that I want to change for the second one is I want to change parameter override to bottom. I'm going to check my button, so all the flags are there, outputs, that I need to set up an output now. So for the output, I'm going to create new, click add, my output named, unpressed, target entities named, elevator top relay, and via this input I want it to trigger. Click apply. So the bottom button, when it's pressed, it will trigger an elevator top relay for the elevator to go down. So now let's jump in, let's see if our elevator goes up, when the elevator goes down when we press the buttons. Alright, now back inside the game. The elevator goes up, and pressing down, elevator goes down. Up, and down. So it works perfectly. So let me run through the whole process from beginning to end again, and because this is a rather lengthy process and a lot of things are working together to make this work. So first is I have an elevator, and this elevator travels up and down when each button is triggered. This elevator was built out of brushes, and then every single brush in here was selected, and then it was tied to an entity. The entity is called function elevator. The name of this elevator is elevator. Now, once you have that created, the two important top floor position and bottom floor position is what you want to pay attention to. The bottom floor position is where your elevator is on the bottom, and the top floor position is where it's at the top. And the way you find the second number or the bottom number is you take this elevator and then you move it up or down. You want to pay attention to this number, origin changes. When this changes, that's the number you want to pay attention to, and that's the number you want to remember. So for the top position, if I move it all the way up, and it's all the way away from us. So if I double click, this changed. So that's the number you want to input into your top floor position. So let me undo. So making sure that you get the top floor position and the bottom floor position, the last number, you gotta make sure those are right. Next is what I did is I just inserted a prop dynamic. This prop dynamic acts as a decoration inside the map, but it also serves a visible function for the player to press up or down. This is a prop dynamic, and it's parented to the elevator. The reason it's parented to is when the elevator moves, this button will go up with it. If you don't parent it, it will stay at the bottom. Next is I inserted two logic relays, one for the top and one for the bottom. These logic relays, each one of them is named elevator down relay and elevator top relay. Then what I did was I created two brushes, and then I tied each one of those brushes to a function button. The top button is parented, so is the bottom, and this is the important part. Make sure you parent each one of these buttons to the elevator, because once you press it, yes, the elevator will go up, but it will not function after that because the buttons will stay on the bottom. So once you press that, you have a parent elevator, and then the outputs I have on pressed targets elevator down relay, and it triggers it. So once you press it, it triggers elevator down relay, and the output on a trigger, the elevator moves to the floor top. And same thing for the bottom. We have a function button which is parented to the elevator, and then the outputs on pressed, it triggers an elevator top relay, and then the outputs on triggered, it moves to the floor bottom. And the last two final entities are called info elevator floor, and they're both named bottom and top, and they're moved. One is moved on the bottom for bottom floor, and one is moved to the top for the top floor. And that is it. That is how you create a functionable elevator. So thank you for watching, and I hope now you can create functionable elevators that go up and down between floors.